Hi everyone, welcome back to Everything Baritone with me, Matt Stead. In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to play clawhammer style on your baritone ukulele. Clawhammer is a lovely old-time technique which originates on banjo, whereby we use a claw shape, hence the name, using our picking hand, and we also add these lovely bum-ditty triplets where we'd normally only have the space of one strum or pick. A banjo utilises a string up here which is an octave higher than some of the others, and it is quite nice if you're performing this technique to use a high D string rather than a low D string. I think a high D string for this particular technique does sound really nice on a baritone, but because most of you won't want the hassle of swapping out and most of you will have a low D string on your baritone, I'm going to keep mine to low D for today's lesson. Now most teachers jump straight in and they show you how to do the bum-ditty clawhammer pick, and don't worry, that's coming up folks, we'll have that very soon. But I've taught this for many years and I find the best thing to do is show you how to hold the shape and get used to just playing a melody first using the nail of our index finger. Then when we come to do the bum-ditty bits, which I'll explain a little bit later on, they'll be a lot more simple and you won't have to make too much more movement than you're already doing. So let's concentrate on getting the right shape with our picking hand first. So whichever hand you pick or strum with, I'd like to hold up and hold it out like you're going to high five me. Next up, I want you to take all the tension out of the hand and curl your last three fingers into the palm of your hand. It's not tight, they're just neatly curled out of the way. The thumb is going to stay held outright, it's not in like this, it's like this. And notice my index finger is now curled over. It's kind of like a hook shape. It's not straight like this or like this or like this. There's a nice kind of hook shape to it, and that's going to be really, really important. So not straight like this, hooked like this. Try not to be too tense. We do need this shape to be relatively solid, but don't tense up all your muscles so it's really, really uncomfortable. Just try and keep it in a nice solid shape like so. Next up, take that shape. Now, no matter what we do now, don't come out of that shape. Don't let that thumb relax. Keep it up here and keep that hook with the index finger. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the nail side of our index finger, this first finger here, and we're going to move our arm in towards our ukulele, and we're going to catch that E string with the nail side of this index finger. Now, if you don't have a long nail, this works perfectly fine with smaller, shorter nails as well. You might catch a little bit of the pad of your finger as you go over the string. That's absolutely fine. The important thing is, I want you to practice coming in towards the ukulele and touching the E string with the nail of that index finger like so. And then just allow your hand to touch onto the baritone ukulele like so. Okay. If you get a bit of a knock from your nail hitting the wood of the ukulele, that's absolutely fine. Notice that my thumb is resting on the D string. That's going to be really important for later on. Next up, I'd like you to try exactly the same thing on the B string. You might find that after you've picked that B string, the nail of your index finger rests on the E string, and that's absolutely fine. There's a slight downward motion in this way, but notice that most of the movement is because my arm is coming in towards the ukulele, and again, that's really important. Finally, let's practice exactly the same thing on the G string. Thumb is still resting on the D string afterwards. My hand is coming in towards the ukulele. That's great. Next up, make sure your baritone is in a normal, comfortable position, 45 degrees, baritone in your lap. And I'd like you to practice hitting those strings in turn. We're going to go G string, B string, and E string. And I'd like you to practice that round and round a few times. Notice I'm always coming in towards the uke, and my thumb is always ending on the D string. Try and keep that claw shape as much as possible. Practice that round a few times on your own now. You can pause the video and come back to it in just a moment. Now that's possibly the most important thing about clawhammer playing. A lot of people concentrate so much on the bum-ditty and the sound and the timing and everything, but a large part of it is getting used to coming in towards the ukulele and using the nail of that index finger to pick the string. Try not to move your finger like this in a picking motion. It's the movement of coming in towards your ukulele which is really important, and keeping that thumb on that D string, that's crucially important. So what we could do now is we could play the first few melody notes of Wildwood Flower. So if you have a look at your sheets that say just melody, you can use either the sheet music or more likely the tablature to help you play these notes. So notice we have this open B string, then we have a C note, this first fret of the B string, and the third fret for a D note, like so. Notice that as I play those three notes, what's happening? My hand is coming in towards the uke, coming out, in, out, and my thumb is resting on that D string. So let's try it. Come in after 1, 2, 1, 2. Fantastic, and again, 1, 2. Fantastic, one more time, 1, 2. Notice that I'm also picking over the sound hole. I've gone a bit lower than where I would normally pick. Generally I would finger pick here and I would strum here, but I've actually come back a little bit lower. That's because as we go towards the bridge, we call this ponte, we get a more banjo-like sound. We can go really banjo way back here, or a thicker kind of sound up here. And I like a nice compromise somewhere about here. It's slightly banjo-y, but not overly so. So what I'd like you to do now is practice just the melody, keeping that claw shape down the whole time, hitting the relevant strings using the nail side of your index finger. Now notice in this piece we either have crotchets or minims. That's the filled in dots or the empty hollow dots. That's really nice. You can think of those as quarter notes or half notes. Basically, the hollow notes are played for twice as long as the filled in notes. That's the easiest way to think about it. So in terms of timing, you can think of it as quick, quick, slow, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick, slow, slow, slow. And finally, notice at the end of the first line we have that repeat marker, the thick line, thin line and 2 dots. That means that after we've played that measure, we go back to the second measure. So it's almost like you go back to where those repeat markers are showing us in the opposite direction. Join in with me after 1, 2. 1, 2. Again. Now this time skip the first repeat and we hit measure 7. At this point when we go up the fretboard in measure 7, just use your index finger to cover the bottom 2 strings at the 3rd fret. We have those 2 3s. Reach with your pinky little finger up to 7, 7, 5, 3, use your fingers to come back along the fretboard. Finish on your first finger and then bring that back to 2 and off. That's going to be really important for when we put the chords together. I'll just show you that bit again just to be sure. So first finger on the 3rd fret, bottom 2 strings, and we hit those 2 3s. Up to 7th fret with your little finger. Walk through your fingers as you come back down 7, 5, 3. Index finger on 3, back to 2, off. Now your normal fingers, whichever feels comfortable here for this note on the 3rd fret. We go down to the G string and back again. And then final line we just have 0, 2 on the G string, 2, 2 open B notes, 3rd fret, open B again, and we come down the scale to an open G to finish. Fantastic. So what I'd like to do is take your time, play through that, getting really comfortable with the timing, and really crucially come in towards the ukulele as you hit those notes using the nail of your index finger, and try and rest that thumb on the D string after every movement. The reason I get you to play just the melody first, getting used to that technique, is that that's a really crucial part of clawhammer playing. The next thing we do is we add the 2 other parts to our bum-ditty. A bum-ditty is where you hear 3 notes, bum-ditty, 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 in the space of 1 beat. You can think of it as 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a... And various teachers use other words to describe that technique and timing. So you might hear some people say claw, hammer, or tick-tocker, tick-tocker. And I quite like bum-ditty, bum-ditty. Well, the nice thing is you're kind of halfway there, or at least a third of the way there, because we have our bum, if you'll excuse the pun, just coming down using the nail side and hitting that note. Let's try it on the E string. So we've got our bum, 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 bum. Next up we need the dit of our ditty, and it's really simple. What we do is we keep this shape, and that's crucially important, don't let that thumb come down. We keep that shape and we strum downwards using the nail of our index finger, but rather than just hitting the 1 string for a melody note, we strum all of the strings. Now, how many strings you strum for that dit depends on where the melody note is. And this isn't an exact science, but generally speaking, if you were to hit the melody note on an E string like this, the dit part, you would strum all 4 strings. If for the melody note you would hit the bum part of the bum-ditty on the G string, for the dit part you would just roughly brush past 2 strings because the melody note is on the G string, like so. Don't sweat that too much, it doesn't really matter, but it just helps you build up a bit of speed later on when you've got more confidence. So let's practice playing our bum dit by coming down on the E string for the bum with our index finger and moving down with a nail brush over all 4 strings, like so. Bum dit, bum dit, bum dit. Now this is crucial, 2 things crucial here. Notice I'm coming in towards the uke for the bum, I'm strumming downwards for the dit, and my thumb is resting on the D string afterwards. That's really important. Bum dit, bum dit, bum dit. Fantastic. Now let's try exactly the same thing, only this time we're going to do the bum on the B string, and our dit, we're going to strum roughly 3 strings. If you accidentally strum too far, it doesn't matter. Bum, dit, bum, dit, bum, dit. And then the same thing, we're going to pick the G string this time, and our nail brush is just going to be over 2 strings. A nice, gentle, subtle one, this one. Now hopefully I've been a clever teacher, because all we need to do is add the T of the bum-ditty, and it's the easiest thing in the world. Because your thumb is resting on that D string, all you need to do is move that thumb away from the uke and just touch the D string as you come away. So you're not picking down like this, and you're not picking down like this. You're picking the D string and coming away from the uke. As long as you dig in as the thumb comes down, it should just be a matter of taking the thumb away from the uke. Okay, so if I pair that up with the bum dit, it will sound like this. Bum, ditty. Okay. Notice I come in, down, out. And I want you to practice that round and round. Let's go for the E string first. Bum, ditty, bum, ditty, bum, ditty, bum, ditty. Again, notice I come in. As I nail brush down, thumb is resting, and move it out. Bum-ditty, 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 bum-ditty. Yeah, great. And again, you can practice that on all your different strings. You could try it on the B string, like so, and even on a G string. Fantastic. So that is it. In essence, that's the technique for clawhammer. So let's see if we can practice these in the context of a piece of music now. If you have a look at your next sheet now, you'll see that we've got the bum-ditties written in the tab. Now you can always spot a bum-ditty because we have a single note, the bum, which is in our case the first note of the second fret, that 3, okay, which is a D note on the B string. Then we have a partial chord. Here we have 0, 0, 3. And then we have a note on the D string. So you can always spot a bum-ditty by a single note, partial chord, and a note on the D string. So if you can look through the piece and spot where the bum-ditties are all the way along. You can even circle them using a highlighter, a really good way to spot them. So if we have a look at the opening 3 notes, we've already practiced doing the melody, which goes like this. B, C, D, off 1, 3. Now that 3, that D note, that's the bum of your ditty. So next up you just need to do your brush and thumb off the D string. So that will sound like this. I'll quite often cover the note on the E string as well, just because that's where our G chord would be. And it's kind of an insurance, because if I accidentally strum too far on my brush, it still sounds nice. So I will play that as 0, 0, 3, 3, even though when I do my brush, I'm really only aiming to hit the top 3 strings. So, okay, brilliant. Next up, we can just play through our next 3 melody notes. And when we hit this open B note, see how we've got the ditty after it? So see if you can spot those bum-ditties in advance. It makes it easier to understand. No, no, bum-ditty, no, no, bum-ditty. Yeah, that's great. Let's carry on in that manner. So we have this C note, 1, 0, no, note. Now this one's interesting. We have a D7 chord. You could just put your finger on the second fret of the G string and pick it and do the bum-ditty afterwards. Again, as a bit of an insurance and to help you, I actually prefer to hold down that whole D7 chord as I make the ditty. The reasoning is, if I don't hold down that chord shape and I accidentally strum too far on my ditty, it sounds horrible, right? Because the underlying chord should be a D7. Whereas if I hold the full D7 down and I accidentally strum too far, it sounds okay because I've got the essence of the chord, and that's the point. The notes come from within the chord. The other advantage of holding down that chord is that quite often when you're doing this clawhammer style, the notes that you need for the bum-ditties are included within the chord shape. So it helps you to play clawhammer much faster because your fingers will be in the right place where they need to be. So when you're at a super fast tempo, that's really helpful. So where we have a measure like that D7, do hold down the whole chord even though it looks like we don't need to. It's really good practice. And I could even do exactly the same thing on the last measure where it goes to a G. Even though I don't strum or play that far, it's really good practice to hold that G chord down as I hit those other notes. So let's see if we can put that whole first section together really slowly. Come in with me after 1, 2. 1, 2. Note, note, bum-ditty. Note, note, bum-ditty. Note, note, bum-ditty. Note, note, bum-ditty. Yeah, fantastic. Now don't worry if you make a load of mistakes as you're learning this, particularly if you accidentally hit the wrong strings using that index finger as you come down. That can be a really common thing, but the more you do this, the more you practice it, you're going to get used to hitting certain strings with that nail and you'll become more accurate. I could give you exercises to do this thing, but the best way to learn and hit the right string at the right time is to practice a piece of repertoire, and this one is simple and perfect for that. Then we repeat the whole of that A section again, exactly the same. Only this time, when we get to measure 5, we skip completely over measure 6 and we go to measure 7, which we start just hitting the G string and a ditty. Then we use our first finger to bar the bottom 2 strings of the 3rd fret, just like we did when we were doing the melody. And I like to keep that shape down as I stretch up to the 7th fret up here with my little finger. Now, if you find that too much of a stretch, that 3 to 7, you can take these fingers away as you hit the 7th fret, and that's what is shown on the tablature. But I find it easier just to keep this shape down, which works as well. Practice both ways and see what feels most comfortable for you. Then we walk down the fretboard using multiple fingers, like we did when we were playing the melody. When you go back to the 3rd fret, if you were using this bar as you reached up with your little finger to the 7th fret, keep it there as you do the ditty. If you weren't and you came away to that 7th fret using your little finger like this, you can just play a normal G here, whichever you prefer. Then we play G, F sharp, that's just 3-2. As you hit the open E note, put your fingers into this C chord, okay, like so that it's ready for the ditty. That's really important because the chord at this point has changed. Da, da, da. We need the sound of that C chord. It's really important that we hold that shape down as we hit the ditty. And I find it easiest to change on that open E. So as I do this, hit that open E and get your fingers ready as you hit that open E. Use your little finger or your 3rd finger for this G note again. Now for the bottom line, because we've come back to a G chord, it's really important to keep either your little finger or your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of that E string for the next few measures. Okay, so when we hit measure 11, we've got 2 fingers down as we do the bum-ditty. We hit this open G and then A. And even on this next measure where it's all zeros, have that finger on the 3rd fret of the E string for the G chord, just in case you strum a little bit too far. And then we finish off exactly the same practice as before. We're going to a D7. So even though you're only playing the top 2 strings, hold down that D7 chord. Ditty. And our final chord, just 2 strings, G shape, and just strum down with your nail over the top 2 strings. So that's it. Let's try the whole of that B section really slowly. I'll talk you through it, so don't worry too much about the timing. Come in with me, but we'll go really slowly after 3, 4. Okay, so we're going to start with the start of measure 7. 3, 4, G note, ditty. First finger over the 3rd fret, bottom 2 strings. Reach up to 7, ditty. 7, 5, 3, ditty. 3, 2, straight into a C shape, ditty. Now make sure you've got that G shape down. Off 2, open, keep that G shape down. final two measures, D7 shape, off, two, and then just nail brush, top two of that G. Yeah, brilliant, fantastic. That's it, your very first piece of Clawhammer ukulele. I really hope you enjoyed that. As I say, I believe the best way to learn and to practice Clawhammer is just to play some very simple repertoire round and round. So remember the key things that I want you to remember from today, and these are the crucial things, is to keep that claw shape down for the whole piece. Even when you're doing those melody notes, remember you're coming in with that index finger in towards the ukulele. When you do your ditty, of your bum-ditty, nail brush down, remember have that thumb there all the time and come out. The biggest mistake I see in beginners when they're starting Clawhammer is that this thumb comes down, and a lot of the time when melody notes are being picked, the thumb's here, which means that then they've got to move it up to then do the next part. The other common mistake is using a thumb pick like this, moving the thumb for the last bit of the bum-ditty. Remember, as long as your thumb is resting on the string, it's just an outward movement. So try and keep that shape down the whole time. Imagine someone's kind of cast your hand in stone and you have to keep that shape down the whole time. And just take it really slow. Really think about what you're doing in each individual part. And most of all, have a whole heap of fun. It's such a great technique. Takes a while to master, but when you've got it, it sounds great. Well, I really hope you enjoyed that, folks. I will see you in the next Everything Baritone lesson very soon. Take care, everyone, and you con. Bye.